On this special episode of Quality Digest Live, we're coming to you from Hexagon's 2012 conference at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas.
That's right. We'll be investigating cutting-edge metrology solutions, talking with industry thought leaders, and much, much more when we come back.
Today's sponsor of Quality Digest Live is Hexagon Metrology. Hexagon carries the widest range of quality brands. With an extensive support network, Hexagon is also your partner. Hexagon Metrology. We are metrology.
Welcome back to Quality Digest Live for June 6th, 2012. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief of Quality Digest.
Yes, he is, and I'm Quality Digest publisher Mike Richmond. Okay, as Dirk indicated, we're here at Hexagon 2012 Think Forward. It's been a great event. We've been here for a couple of days, and we've seen some great stuff here, Dirk. It's really been very, very impressive. If you come to this event, if you came last year, you'll be amazed at the scope of this thing. It's just incredible.
3,000 people.
3,300 people from 76 countries. Again, we're here at the MGM Grand. It's a large venue, and it needs to be, really, because there's a heck of a lot going on. What we've seen here is we saw a great opening icebreaker right here in this room,
right,
which is a huge room. You could build an airplane in here if you wanted to.
Right.
We saw a great icebreaker. We saw an amazing opening keynote yesterday, which was really cool, and that was in the Garden Arena, which is another big venue.
Right.
Everybody there, 3,000 people, and Ulla Rolien and the rest of his management team, of course, addressed the crowd and told them everything that was going on. It really was very impressive.
Right. Yeah, the opening ceremony is kind of more like a rock concert than anything.
A lot more like a rock concert, really, than it is really a business meeting keynote address. But I think that really, when you're here, you get the vibe of what's going on here. They're talking about a lot of solutions. They're meeting with a lot of users. They're really having. You can actually see it now. You can kind of see some of the footage that we captured. Again, I mean, it's a big space. A lot of people here. A lot of great stuff going on.
Yeah, a lot of interesting technologies, and I think what's really fascinating is how all the technologies tie together. We've got several different things going on. We've got building information management. Sure. We've got obviously the metrology arm. A lot of software applications that tie all these different types of equipment together, and that's really what you learn here at Hexagon 2012.
That's right, and of course all tied together with that great keynote yesterday at 8 a.m. and it was, when you say it's a rock concert, it really is. The light show, the explosions, and then a really good deep dive into the solutions that Hexagon is really known for, and all the divisions of Hexagon, as you said, not just metrology, but the Intergraph division.
Yeah, and it's not just, obviously it's not just fun and games. This is a user conference, so there's a lot of really interesting informational tracks going on as well. Breakout sessions and so forth.
You can see it right there. You can see the opening keynote and all the information presented, and the breakouts are great. Of course, the breakouts, really informative, detailed breakouts on applications and what users are doing. Real users are doing in the real world with Hexagon products and services.
And to me, and we'll be getting on this a little bit later when we speak to Angus Taylor, but it's really how all of this information is being integrated. I mean, before we used to think of kind of these informational silos. You've got your metrology data, you've got your building information data, you got your security data and so forth. More and more, these are all being integrated into one. That's really a lot of what we learn about here. So
yeah, integration of that is really cool. Well, it's been a great event. We've had a great time here. We're in day 3 here, and we're going to be having some more great coverage here today on this show.
Absolutely.
So it's good stuff. So hang out. We'll be getting back to Hexagon here in a couple of moments.
Right. So first of all, let's do just a little bit of news. A couple of news items from this week's Quality Digest Daily, which we thought were pretty interesting. The first one from the Conference Board. According to a new report from the Conference Board, the proportion of employees who work predominantly from home or another remote location has more than tripled in many industries during the past decade. The report, which is called The Incredible Disappearing Office, Making Telework Work, was published by the Conference Board in May 2012. Now, according to the study, nationwide about 2% of full-time employees telecommute. Some of the higher percentages would be salespeople at about 11%, or Software developers add about 6%. Obviously, we have a lot of software developers here at Hexagon 2012. Odds are many of them work from home. So there are some obvious lifestyle benefits. Anybody who's done this will tell you have more time with your family. The flexible schedule allows you to get some things done during the day that you normally wouldn't. They also report improved performance and higher productivity due to fewer distractions. However, teleworkers also have some downsides. They may feel cut off from their colleagues. They also feel like they may have less influence in day-to-day decisions and larger strategic plans. Worse than all that, telecommuters slowly become an always-on employee. The same technology that allows us to telecommute also means it's hard to set boundaries between your work and your office. You get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, you turn on your computer, you start answering your emails. Everybody else is still commuting to work. At 6 and 7 o'clock at night, you're still doing emails or picking up on stuff you left at home. I mean, you're working 12 hours a day without even thinking about it.
Well, what ties into that is this whole idea of the globalization of business today, because, hey, we all have customers all over the world. Certainly everyone here is interconnected on a global scale. You have customers all over the world, so sure, you'll wake up in the morning and your colleagues in India will have been working for hours, so most of the day already. Meanwhile, your colleagues in Europe may not get on until you're closing ostensibly your normal 9 to 5 day. So yeah, it's kind of a 24/7 business world these days, and this is what we're seeing.
And that's the downside. So the article does have some ideas, and I'll just list a couple of them here real quick, for what companies can do to support telecommuting. These are just a few. Build strong team relationships. This really addresses the idea that the telecommuter often feels disconnected from their, I telecommute 4 days a week, so I know what that feels like. I'm trying to manage, my editorial team, and I'm 100 miles away. It's really hard. You feel disconnected. The company needs to promote an organizational culture that recognizes the needs and talents of teleworkers. Kind of like out of sight, out of mind, and they also kind of miss out on some of the things that may happen in an office environment, just in terms of visibility to management. The other thing is the company needs to refine performance and reward systems to maximize individual initiative and minimize slacking off, or the perception that a teleworker is slacking off, and also establish no meeting times to ease information overload for all employees. In other words, what they're saying is they're already because they work online, they're already being deluged with a lot of information, and you need to kind of minimize that from the company perspective, as not involving them in other things that's just going to contribute to that information overload.
And that's a hard one. You have to be careful of that. So great story. Great story for the conference board. We cover the conference board a lot. So good stuff from them, and look forward to more stuff from them coming up soon. Okay, well, we're going to turn right now back to metrology and back to Hexagon. Of course, we are here at Hexagon 2012 Think Forward, and we're going to be sitting down now with Angus Taylor. And Angus Taylor, of course, is the president and CEO of Hexagon Metrology North America. And Angus has been good enough to join us on the show here. And Angus and Dirk and I are going to be having an exchange about some of the interesting things that Hexagon Metrology is up to, and what we can look forward to them coming up. So Angus, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
Welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for hosting us at this great event, really.
You're very welcome.
We've had a great time. A lot of stuff going on here.
Oh yes, it's an event that it's the second year for metrology to participate in this event. It's historically you came from Intergraph and then like a Geosystems, and then Hexagon Metrology is actively involved in this now, and I think it's a great type of event for the future.
Yeah, it was very interesting for us to watch during the keynote just how all the different pieces tied together. We talked about that earlier in the show here a few minutes ago. It's very interesting to see how metrology and the software from the other organizations that are part of now of the Hexagon group, how all that information is just shared and across all platforms.
Well, I think the key point here is that Hexagon is a very, flat top organization. We have the ability to be able to communicate very rapidly. We don't have a lot of hierarchy in the structure of the company, and that what that does, it really helps the organization flourish by sharing information much more rapidly than maybe some conventional type of business. So it's a different approach, and Hexagon has done an excellent job of being able to do this all around the world.
Yeah.
Well, think forward. That's the theme. That's the theme of the show, and that's what all of the Hexagon divisions are really doing with their customers, is thinking about the future and thinking about how to use information and data to better manage their processes and to improve the world, let's be honest. So how does that apply to what Hexagon Metrology is up to?
Well, there's several ways that we are seeing some sort of changes, from our interaction with our customers, the way that we listen to the customer, we look at what their wants and needs are, and to give you, for example, inside the aircraft industry, they're changing materials from, say, aluminum type sort of materials over to carbon fiber. They don't necessarily know how it reacts to change, etc., as they go through the manufacturing process. And what we're doing is we're more actively involved further downstream in the manufacturing process, because by the time an aircraft component might go into an autoclave, it's maybe too late to do some rework. So we're working with our customers to make sure that we're more involved in their process. The other thing as well is what I believe is probably one of the most significant things, and certainly here from this particular conference, is the way that people will interact with software. Hexagon is a software company as well as many things, but from a software perspective, the way that people touch and touch that software, and how they manipulate data and use the data, because it's all about data. That's what our customers want, so they can take actions on that data. So we're very much involved in trying to develop the best type of interfaces, the best way to use and view data. So this is something. So thinking ahead, this is the way. The world is going this way, and you and I can't change it. Neither can Hexagon. So we have to go with the way that the future will be and how people interact with software, for example.
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of times people think about Hexagon Metrology and they think hardware. That's what primarily comes to mind, but really it's really about the software and what you can do with that data once you get into the software.
I think so, for sure, because going back historically, software was maybe a necessary evil on a piece of hardware, just that you had to do to provide numbers for a coordinate system, for example. And now software is really driving a lot of the sort of changes that are happening inside the manufacturing processes, and this is where we have a leading position with the ability inside of the scale of Hexagon to pull resources together to be able to make something as a change in the industry. So.
Right. Talk to me about Hexagon Metrology Services. That's an important part of your business, and it's an important part of the way that you connect to your users. As the sale happens and after the sale happens, and once they're a customer of yours.
Yes, Hexagon Metrology Services is a business that we formed to create a value proposition for the customer, allowing us to be able to supply people, equipment, rental equipment of like trackers, articulated arms, CMMs, etc. But also, more importantly than that, is the people. So we provide people that can do services, programming, operators, and the primary reason for doing this is when a business is going through a ramp-up stage, for example, an aircraft program or a new automotive launch, or heavy equipment type companies, they don't necessarily want to have a large volume of people left at the end of the program. They want to be able to ramp up that program, and then as they start to ramp it down and stabilize what they really need for the particular product manufacturing that they're going to manufacture, then that's what Hexagon Metrology does. We provide that service to be able to allow them to do that. It's like outsourcing these particular services to Hexagon.
And you bring them into your precision center as well. We were actually just out at your precision center in North Kingstown, Rhode Island, a couple months ago, and we saw classes, people coming in and learning a lot about the various options that Hexagon offers, both on the hardware and the software side.
Yes, we have 12 precision centers in North America, 2 of them in Mexico, the others are in North America. And from there we offer services, we do presentations, we do tech support, we do training is a very, very key critical component, is to train the workforce, obviously, to be able to use the products and get the most out of the value of the investment that they've just made.
Let's talk a little bit about technology a little bit. I mean, one thing that I keep seeing every time I come to this show and other shows is contact versus non-contact sensing. Well, you've been around on this as long as I have, is, it used to be, well, if you wanted precision, you used contact. If you wanted lots of data and capture contours, and you didn't need as much precision, well, you use scanning. And it seems like that gap is slowly closing. I mean, where do you see the whole contact, non-contact sensing going?
Okay. Historically, non-contact was used. People think of like printed circuit boards and very small prismatic sort of componentry. Maybe some medical device components.
Right.
The two parts of the probe and sensing business, from tactile and scanning solutions to inspection systems with non-contact, also scanning, non-contact. Those two have come together, and the business is really moving more towards a multi-sensor type of environment. Right. There's still applications, obviously, for either solution, but a lot of this technology is coming closer and closer together.
Do you see, and maybe I'm asking you to talk about something that is just too far in the future, but do you see non-contact or scanning sensing getting to the point where where contact is not needed anymore, where we just have the precision with scanning that we don't need contact sensing anymore?
No, I don't see it disappearing. I just see them coming closer together, and there will be some combinations that will fit for specific applications.
Okay.
You had a great press session yesterday that we were fortunate enough to sit in on and ask you some questions. There was a really interesting question that you fielded. I hope you can kind of revisit it here for our audience. We asked you, what do you consider the greatest threat to Hexagon Metrology in terms of the technology and the implementation of that? And you had a very interesting answer. Would you care to talk about that again?
Sure. The greatest threat that I see as a manufacturer here in North America, but obviously we're a global business, and the supply chain into whatever it is that we manufacture, and the ability for accessibility or availability to componentry that we use. So the life cycle of individual components that are used in some of our technology, whether it be a probe sensor or an encoder or whatever, the important thing here is understanding the life cycle and the availability of that, and certainly when we get to, say, some of the newer technologies, the pad tablet type interface, iPad, etc., how long they're available. It's the same problem that the automotive companies face, because the customer will use that type of touch environment inside of a vehicle. It's just a matter of time. So we have to move with understanding, with our development cycle of our products. The way we do this, we have to make sure that we're in sync with the development of all the components that we're going to use. So that's probably the largest threat that I would see.
For capital equipment manufacturers, this aspect of the lifetime of components, somebody told me once that this is really has been impacted greatly by the huge growth in consumer electronics, where component lifetime component life cycle isn't as big a consideration, yet that's the hugest market. So all the component manufacturers, I'm talking more electronic components, are so focused on the consumer market that it's getting harder and harder to get componentry that has the type of industrial or aerospace or military specs that used to be very common a long time ago. I mean, is this something that Hexagon experiences?
Well, for sure, whenever we design products, we've got to look for the availability of the products, and if you can use components that are, let's say, in frequent use somewhere in other industries or even in the consumer area, this is something that we have to look at and consider. It's natural because of product availability.
And price as well, I'm sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And this has changed so much. Gosh, I mean, this wasn't as much of an issue perhaps 5 or 10 or more years ago.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, it's changing very, very quickly in this world of ours. Again, getting back to this event, which is, we've had such a good time at, and it's such an important part of what you do each year. The idea that you're going to share best practices and you're going to share that with your users when you're here. This is also an opportunity for you to share those best practices across the spectrum. I mean, Hexagon is a broad company with a lot of different people, a lot of different divisions. So how do you use this time now to get together and learn from your colleagues as well?
Well, exactly. This is one of the reasons for this event. This event is obviously for customers, it's for partners, resellers, etc. in the industry, and then also for the internal people inside of the Hexagon group. You know, it's nearly 13,000 people. It's a lot of people. Right. It's a way to have these people interact and exchange and network, etc. So this is something that's happening this week. Many different meetings that are going on for collaboration across the spectrum of products that exist within the family of Hexagon.
What has been one of the most surprising things for you with kind of the merger of not merger, but Hexagon getting Intergraph and some of these newer companies, MyVR, and as all this information starts to be used across the whole Hexagon company, what's kind of been the most surprising thing that's popped up out of doing that?
Well, we are a software business here. Right. At the end of the day, the frames that we have, the different types of equipment that are used to collect data, the different sensors, the end goal is to give data to somebody, and there's so many similarities when you see what is going on from let's say airborne sensors scanning over topography of the Earth versus going over a tool in Detroit in the automotive industry. Right, there's a lot of similarities in the contours and form, shape, how you handle that kind of information. So you just mentioned MyVR. This is just a recent acquisition for Hexagon, and that's an exciting new platform that we can use for moving data very, very rapidly. So we see major benefits for our customers because of this connectivity that we have across the organization.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. You used a great example of building a mine or a tunnel versus a stent, and how that's kind of there's similarities. I'd like to say the scope is a million times different, but
sure.
But essentially it's the same process.
Well, that is one example that came out from a software meeting where you bring together some of the mathematicians within the organization, and we're trying to measure a stent that goes into the human body, a very, very small component. And then you look and you do a comparative with measuring a tunnel that goes through the Swiss Alps, maybe a 30-kilometer tunnel. And they're both round, they're just different size, but the algorithms that could be used to measure the form and shape and accuracy of a component, or in this case a tunnel, it's something that until you bring companies together like this with the vision that Hexagon has, this is where you see the strategy come together and really benefit.
Right. Well, we're here again next year, 2013. We're in the same place.
Wonderful.
We're looking forward to it. It's going to be. I'm curious because there's been so much new stuff just in the last year, since Orlando last year to this year. Yeah. And you think about what we're going to see next year in 2013. It's really, I'm looking forward to it already. So.
Wonderful.
Angus, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
We can go on.
Angus, appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
okay. Awesome.
Great stuff. And thank you for having us here too.
Okay. You're very, very welcome.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
All right. Good stuff. Well, good stuff there with Angus Kaller. Do a lot of interesting things there with.
Yeah. The MyVR thing is something. We're probably going to be talking about that later on editorially. This is just my understanding is a product that takes data from a lot of different sources, virtual data, cloud data, whether it's large scale from LiDAR, terrain mapping, or down to scanning a building or scanning a product, and how that data is integrated. I think I have that right, but we'll be talking about that later. We're gathering more information as we go.
It's a brand new acquisition. Hey, I mean, it's two or 3 weeks old at this point. I believe it's a Finnish company, Norwegian company.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
But anyway, it's a fascinating technology, so look out for more coverage on that coming up soon.
Okay, hey, another interesting article we had this week was one from Jim Ruff. Jim Ruff is one of our newer authors. In this article, he's talking about the circle system, and he talks about the 3 ways that companies or any kind of organization elicits collective intelligence. And he talks about the triangle, the box, or the circle. So whether we're talking about a corporation, a school, a hospital, government agency, whatever, even a nation, you will find one of these 3 categories. You've got the triangle, where a leader or committee is ultimately in charge.
Or also known as a pyramid, of course.
Or a pyramid, right? You've got a box, where a set of agreements or a constitution is ultimately in charge, so rules and regulations. And then you have, ideally, the circle, where all conversation and consensus is among the participants within that organization, and they have the ultimate authority. So you would think of military organizations and businesses with charismatic leaders are a good example of triangle systems. In these settings, people orient themselves to the leader or his or her position. The problem is that the collective intelligence of the organization is limited by the leader's attributes. You're following a charismatic leader. Even if you really like this leader and you're going with this leader, you're limited by that own particular leader's vision.
And or flaws.
And flaws, exactly.
That person may be an egomaniac, or they might not listen to all the people in their organization. And then these things are problems in a triangle-based organization.
And normally a government agency would be one that you would think of is as a box, because supposedly the rules are in charge. It's the rules that are in charge, are constitution and laws. In society, most people live under a constitution where the free market is in play, and supposedly there are fair rules. You have, money to keep score, essentially. You got competition that brings out the best in people. But the problem here is that increasingly the game is rigged, or we think it's rigged, because winners tend to make rules to fit the winners. They make the rules to fit themselves.
Sure. It propagates that as it goes forward in time.
Exactly. And so the box system will always break down, because eventually you get to a situation where a contract cannot be in charge of people.
That's right.
In the end. So now let's get to the circle. You would think that unions, cooperatives, membership organizations, and democracies would be circle systems, because everyone is supposedly equal. Unfortunately, in practice, these organizations often become their own worst enemies, because they end up again being personality driven, and you end up with a triangle, or you might even end up with a command and control situation, in which case you're back to a box. So you may want, and you may be striving towards a circle where everybody is playing part of the game, but in reality you don't end up with that.
Right. And that's a problem, because what happens there is people think they're in a circle, and they really find out they're in a triangle.
And there's a level of frustration.
There's a lot more frustration.
They think they have input into the system, and they don't really.
Well, they do. They do at a certain level. But when it really comes to the key decisions that need to be made to move the organization forward, they don't. And that's where the frustration comes in.
Right.
The key decisions.
And Ruff talks about this in the article, and he's going to suggest something which he admits is maybe a little
airy-fairy.
Maybe a little airy-fairy. But the crux of the article he's getting to is that it is possible to create a circle organization, one where everyone truly has a part in influencing the decisions. The key is making the shift that helps everyone, all employees for instance, to engage one another periodically in a special form of conversation, which Ruff calls choice creating. With choice creating, everyone creatively and collaboratively addresses important issues, and kind of the way he talks about doing this is really a form of brainstorming. Really, what it gets down to is you get everybody together, you have a facilitator, you allow people, you present a problem. Here's the situation we're trying to fix. We've got an issue, or whether it's a production issue or a management issue or even a strategic issue. And you allow everybody to have an opinion, and all opinions count. They may not be used, but no opinion is discounted. Right. And you have a facilitator that makes sure that happens. And he has kind of this system that he talks about for doing this, which when you get really down to it, it's really almost a quality circle when you get down to it.
It is. I mean, that's what jumped out at me when I read this was, hey, we're initially stemmed from the Quality Circle Institute. I mean, that's what our roots are in, was in the idea of quality circles. The other thing is he also brought up within the framework of his collaboration the idea of the wisdom circle, I believe was the phrase he used, where you still have something of, I guess you'd call it a hierarchy of stakeholders who have special skills, but are consultative in nature and not command and control. Right. It's about listening to what the rank and file think is right.
Sure, it could be in a sense, maybe in a sense, it's kind of like a Congress.
Sure.
Right. So you have these are your representatives, and they're listening, and then they're massaging the data.
And Congress is a good example. I mean, there's special interests that play into that in both cases. I mean,
it is a little utopian.
What I like about this article is Jim Ruff is setting an intention, which is great. Now we know the reality is rarely going to reach that intention, but that's okay. I think that we need this in the discussion. We need to have these discussions in a forum like Quality Digest Daily, Quality Digest Live, where we can talk about this and raise these issues, because we want to aspire to this. I mean, this is what your employees want. Hey, every employee wants to feel bought in. They want to feel like they have a say in the way the organization runs. I mean, we think about that all the time in our very small, very flat organization, that we say we want everybody to be able to have their oar in the water and really contribute.
And the secret to doing that, though, and even as much as we try, I know we're not good at this. Somebody will have an idea. Yep. You know technically that, I should say me, I know technically that somebody may make a suggestion and I may shoot it down.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. Within a good brainstorming session, even if with a good facilitator, somebody, you may say, well, Dirk, I think we should do this. I may know that may be technically unfeasible. But the facilitator says, no, Mike, that's a good idea. Let's write it on the board. And then when I have a chance, I will say, well, I kind of think Mike's idea has some problems. That goes through the facilitator. Everything is listened to. And the advantage of that is that it encourages people to talk and put out ideas that even might not be feasible. And the thing is, somebody may springboard off of an idea that won't work, but it sparks another idea.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's exactly right. I think what happens is many cases we look at these things as black and white.
And they aren't.
And things move in grays and gradients of gray. And you throw an idea out there, maybe 90% of it is not feasible. Maybe it's not workable, maybe it's way too expensive, but maybe there's a kernel in there.
Your bad idea is going to spark a good idea.
That's right.
But unless I give you permission and the freedom and the comfort level to do that, nobody's going to hear your idea.
Know it. Yeah. This is really important thing. This is really important part of quality, of the quality of an organization, is to make sure that their people are heard. Your people, we say it a million times and it becomes kind of hackneyed. Your people are your most important resource, but it's very true. They're the ones that move your organization forward. So good stuff there with Jim Ruff. Good
Look forward to, actually we will be hearing more from Jim Ruff. I think Jim has kind of said he'd like to contribute some more articles, so we should be hearing more from him.
Maybe we'll even get him on the show.
We might even get him on the show, that's right.
We'll try.
Okay. So, one last thing, one last item from the show is our tech corner. Obviously, we're in a tech center here at Hexagon 2012, and we saw a lot of really cool things going on. Had a chance to visit some booths, and we looked at one product that we want to show you here in just 1 second, and this is the Cognitens WLS400 white light scanner, I guess we'll call it. And let's take a look at it. If you just roll that video. So I'm here with Cliff Bliss of Hexagon Metrology to take a look at the Hexagon WLS400 white light scanner. Correct. Do I have that right? White light scanner?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So tell us about it.
This is our new generation white light product. It's called the WLS400. It's based on a 3-camera system. Illumination with LED blue light, so it's utilizing the new blue light technology. It's based on stereo vision, which incorporates a projector, and you can see from the projector it's going to put an image onto the part. The software recognizes exactly how that image is distorted on the part, and through point correspondence will reconstruct the 3-dimensional characteristics of your part in the software, and then from there you can compare the actual image back to CAD or back to a master part, if you will.
Now, is this the same as structured white light, or is this a different?
Within the white light technology group, there's what they call structured light, which utilizes a technology called phase shifts.
Okay.
The stereo vision, which we're utilizing here, utilizes point correspondence based on fixed cameras and based on a distorted image of the part. Now, the nice thing about stereo vision is we can collect the data in less than 8 milliseconds. That affords you the ability to go handheld and measure parts. It also affords you the ability to put it on an automated system, and you can run right next to stamping presses. So vibration we're immune to vibration.
So the difference is some of the other structured white light, they're projecting these different patterns, and it takes several seconds to step through them. Is that?
Well, basically they put on patterns, or phases they call them. Okay. It's based on grayscale, and they have to put anywhere between 3 and 7 patterns on there. So they have to take between 3 and 7 shots, which could last up to 1.5 to 2 seconds. So if your part moves within that time frame, you have a motion error and you have to start over, whether that's handheld or not. Now, one of the benefits of structured light is it brings back a very clean, what they call an STL for reverse engineering. So this is the only system in the market that will actually do both.
Okay.
So basically, you go into a software toggle switch and you say, I would like to do structured light. You bring it over to the area, you shoot, and it takes 5 shots. It looks at the targets, takes 3 shots, then it will smooth and average that point cloud for a nice, clean reverse engineering method. And then you can go back to stereo vision and you can basically walk through the part and shoot. So just to give an example, you can see those 2 red dots on the part. That gives you your standoff. Now it's not very sensitive. You can be plus or minus 2 inches, 3 inches maybe. Okay? And you just point, shoot, you're done. And then that quickly, you can shoot again.
So with those 2 dots, you're looking just to get them fairly close together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So if you have them right on top of each other, that's your optimal focal.
Okay.
Okay, but you can be a little in or a little out, and it will not affect the measurement.
Okay, within a couple inches, you said.
A couple inches,
okay,
3 inches, yes. Works out very well. This is our what we call our accessibility platform. It's an option. The nice thing about this is it was designed specifically for this technology. If you're in a plant area, it goes up to 10 feet high, right? Or it goes all the way down to the floor.
Okay.
Nice thing too is the way the legs are configured. You can get them underneath the table, so you can get into that die. You can reach out real far. Okay. All pneumatics, very ergonomic. Now again, this is a option. You could also put this on your own design stand if you like. You can go completely handheld. Just put it on a cart. You need 3 things if you go handheld. You need the head, acquisition device. You need the control box, which is all solid state now, very light, and you need a laptop. So you can imagine, you can just
put the whole piece right here.
Right.
Okay.
That's all you need to operate the system.
All right.
Now, another nice feature is that we're using all off-the-shelf computers. Okay, this is just a standard Dell computer, higher-end Dell computer, and then it also comes in a desktop. So if you need horsepower, you go with a desktop, or if you're in a very harsh atmosphere, like in a plant, where it gets very hot, you can cool the desktop.
Oh, sure.
Or in a very dusty area, you can actually filter the desktop. Okay? And also, that head, when you go into an automation standpoint, you can take that same head and go from manual to automated. So you can take it off the stand, you can put it on the end of a robot, and you're good to go.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, it's a white light product. We're utilizing blue light technology. And sometimes there's a little confusion there when we say white light and blue light. Our physicists reminded us that blue light is in the white light spectrum.
Well, there you go.
So saying white light, same thing as blue light. So we call it a white light system, but we utilize blue light technology. And that's because it has a very short wavelength. And short wavelength means it doesn't overexpose us, right? It doesn't come back at us like a white light would. You can imagine taking a photograph with a flash in the mirror, you get overexposed.
Okay.
We don't want that, right? So we have the short wavelength that doesn't come back at us. We also have a third camera, so if one does get a little overexposed, we can go to the other 2. So it gives you a lot of versatility.
Okay, Cliff Bliss with Hexagon Metrology, showing us the Cognitens WLS400. Okay, terrific. Thanks, Cliff. And back to you, Mike.
Well, there you have it, the Cognitens WLS400, presented by Cliff Bliss.
Notice how I threw that back to you, even though I'm here?
That's right. Back to you, Mike. How did you know? How did you know you weren't going to throw it back to yourself, is what I want to know.
Should have said back to you, Dirk.
It's like a time warp. It's great. Well, that was great. Cliff Bliss, of course, presented that to us, the Cognitens WLS400. Good piece of technology. It's just one of a few things that we shot here. You'll be looking out for more tech corners coming up from this show that we'll be bringing to you.
That's right.
I think we did a roamer. We did a roamer product as well.
No, the ATS 400, a scanner.
A scanner.
Tracker.
A scanner.
Tracker.
A tracker, I'm sorry. We'll bring that to you in an upcoming episode of Quality Digest Live. Okay, well, that's our show for today, but before we close, I'd like to thank today's sponsor. Who else? Hexagon Metrology. Stay one step ahead of the changing world. Hexagon Metrology is the largest player in dimensional metrology, and they're committed to tailoring a solution to fit your needs. But they're not just about quality equipment. Hexagon's service and support team, as we heard from Angus earlier, is there when you need them as well, guaranteeing that they are more than just your supplier. Hey, they're your partner. Please take a moment to visit www.hexmet.us/QD312D or the banner ad right below the player here and learn more. And of course, hey, we want to offer our thanks additionally to Hexagon for being great hosts this week. I mean, really, they really showed us a great time, showed us a lot of interesting technologies. We met some great people from across the world. Hey, 3,300 attendees, 76 nations represented. We met a lot of great people, so this has been a really, really good time. And And hey, next year right here again, Hexagon 2013 in the MGM Grand. So
that's right.
Mark your calendars now. It'll be in early June once again. So wait out for that.
And we have another show coming up in July, the CMSC, Coordinate Metrology Systems Conference.
That's right.
In New Orleans.
New Orleans, the Roosevelt Hotel in New Orleans, another great facility, and that show, similar in some ways. You'll see a lot of the similar, a little smaller. It's a little smaller. You'll see a lot of similar and some different technologies as well from a lot of different service providers. So look out for that. That is July 16th. That begins in New Orleans.
We may be broadcasting live from there. We're not sure.
We'll let you know. So you stay tuned and to your email, and you'll find out.
That's right.
Great.
Okay.
Well, that's it. Hey, that's our show. Thank you so much for joining us again. Thanks, Hexagon. Thanks, everyone who made it a great week for us here in Las Vegas. We're going to actually not see you this Friday. We'll see you next Friday live on June 15th for the next episode of Quality Digest Live.
And thanks, Angus Taylor, for joining us on the show as well.
Yes. Forgot about Angus. Yes, thank you, Angus, for joining us, and we had a good time talking to you. So look out for next week, another great week of content on Quality Digest Daily. We'll see you then.
So long.
Bye.